Hey everyone, it's Ken here, the Cherry Gardener. Just wanted to give you a quick update on what the garden's looking like now. It's the 10th of February today. Summer is still on us, but it is a lot cooler than it used to be. So I wanted to just give you a quick run around. Behind me is the pumpkin. This is what happens when you grow pumpkin, and particularly when you don't go savage in terms of your pruning. So it's out of control. It's kind of growing up onto the shed. It's too big. Over here you can just see the kiwi fruit. Sorry, that's the male. This is the female growing up here. Got some beans growing here. I've been a bit disappointed with them because the plants look good, but I haven't had any fruit really. It's flowering, had a few beans, but there's still a lot more flowers, so hopefully we'll get some fruit in the next few weeks. All right, we're in the garden now, so I'm going to talk you through what's growing and what's not growing. It's starting off here with the zucchini. It's not the prettiest of plants, but boy, it is fruitful. It is incredible how much fruit this thing produces and how big they grow if you don't get onto them fast. I've got a couple of plants here. As the season goes on, they get taller. The crown sort of flops over. Oh my lord, look out people. So here's one I missed. So that's what we're talking about, crazy zucchinis. There's a normal size one. So zucchinis are doing well. Behind me in the pot, I've got some fennel. This is Florence fennel, which you can cut up and use the bulb. It grows a lot bigger, but that hasn't grown yet. This is a bit of an Agatha Christie style story. I planted a lot of seedlings here, and one by one I've pulled them out until now there's only one left. This is a cayenne pepper. I'm going to try and grow it over the winter, keep it in a greenhouse and see how it grows, but that's looking pretty healthy. Next to it here is a capsicum. Capsicums are doing pretty well. Should be still getting fruit off your capsicum. I'm not a big fan of most varieties. I just can't get them to do super well. I get a couple of fruit and then they kind of, that's about it. This is Thai basil, which I'm really pleased with. It's growing nicely in a little row. Went to seed fast, probably because of the heat, but the smell and flavour of it is still lovely. There's still lots of lovely green growth on it, so it's beautiful aniseed flavour. This is this kind of novelty eggplant, which I don't know if I'd bother growing again. Gets lots of fruit, we'll see. They're kind of small, pretty, but a bit average. These are the tiny capsicum. I definitely will not grow these again. The flavour is average. I'm calling all of these novelty plants because they are kind of neat looking. They've got pretty colours on them, but they're not very practical. They're too small to be of a lot of use, and the flavour's not very nice, so won't grow those again. Behind me is the passion fruit. It's causing me a great deal of suspicion. I think that it might have grown from the rootstock instead of the grafted stock on top. So in this pot I've got lemongrass growing. I'm very pleased. It seems to be getting bigger, and lemongrass is just a great thing to grow in warm climates. It'll grow like a really thick clump. Here in Canberra it will die out with the frost, except that I'm going to put it in the greenhouse, which I have yet to construct, and hopefully that'll keep it living through the winter. Behind me, again in pots, I've got two pots side by side. I ran out of space, so I planted these beans here, and how cool are these? These are snake beans, and you can see the size of these. Plants doing well, except for the fact that the leaves are quite pale, so I'd suggest that they need some more nitrogen. I'm going to put some blood and bone, which is a very nitrogen-rich fertilizer. You can use that in your compost, but I'll use it sparingly. I'll sprinkle a little bit in here and see if we can get these leaves looking a bit healthier. Next to me are the tomatoes. Tomatoes are definitely moving towards the end of their season, but I'm always amazed at how tomatoes keep producing fruit even when the plants themselves are looking kind of not that great. These yellow ones have been awesome this year. I've got a little variety here which a label called Black Red. You can see it's got a bit of a dark colour on it as well as the redness. That's still producing fruit. Picking them all early to keep them from getting eaten by mice, which are hiding all around in my garden. So I've grown a few things in pots this year, again because I don't have a huge amount of space in the garden. So this is yarrow. Yarrow, if you haven't grown it, it's a really pretty little herb. Gets nice flowers on it. Nice feathery foliage, but it's also something really good that you can put into your compost. It activates the compost and helps it to decompose more quickly. So that's yarrow. Also here, which I'll lift up, is a nice big pot of sage. It's doing really well. given the heat that we've had, things like sage and some of these other plants, this is borage, which attracts bees, and you can eat the leaves, although they're kind of prickly. These sort of things will suffer in the heat, so I've kept them in pots hidden underneath some of the other plants, so they're partly shaded. Tomatoes still over here. This is a fail. This is because I was a cheapskate and tried to reuse stakes that were too old. They snapped and the plants are kind of flopped over, which has been quite annoying. It means you have to dig in there to get your tomatoes. So don't stint on garden stakes. They're overpriced, but it's worth spending the money. One other thing in a pot that I'll show you. This is lemon balm. Lemon balm's one of many different herb varieties that have a nice lemon citrusy flavour. They're good in salads, good in lots of cooking if you want that citrus. And anyway, growing in a pot, doing well. Finally, I'll show you the last things growing over here. These big plants here, this is marketed as a chili, but as we know, chili and capsicum really are just different ends of the same spectrum. These have no heat whatsoever, but they grow quite a lot bigger than this, and they work really well as a sweet capsicum. I'm particularly pleased. It's probably grown better than just about any other capsicum I've grown, and it's called, I think it's Bull's Horn. So there you go, you can see the label. If you want to grow something as a healthy, vigorous capsicum, I'd recommend this one. Next to it is the hot chili that I did a little blog post on the other day. These are tiny. You can see these little fellas. They do ripen. Oh, here we go. Got a couple of red ones here. They are pretty hot. Will I have a taste? Holy smokes. Bad move. Very hot. Bit of soothing tomato. So, they made a good sauce. Good trick to play on you, friend. This here is a different kind of zucchini or squash. It's called tromboncino. It's called that because it kind of looks like a big curved brass instrument. The fruit, that is. It grows like a pumpkin vine. I planted it late. It's growing well in the pot, but we'll see if we get any fruit. You can see all the little flower buds on it, so hopefully we'll get a few fruit before winter comes. This, I think, is just a great example of perseverance with the plant. This thing sat in the garden and stayed about this big, looked like it was going to die for ages and ages, and look, I just left it here. It's an eggplant, and it's just decided to take off as the summer heats come in. It's looking really healthy. So I think sometimes there are plants that we give up on a little too quick. This one's doing really well. Voila, here's one of several cucumbers. They've done really well this year, so the cucumbers are still producing. I'm going to try and pickle these, thanks to Dave, my mate, who's given me a recipe for pickling cucumbers. So we'll give that a crack later on. My mouth still feels like it's bleeding after eating that chili, so please don't try this at home, kids.